and welcome to today's webinar series on how the Career Centre supports our Executive MBA Dubai students. Just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Yasmin and I'm the Recruitment and Admissions Manager for the EMBA Dubai programme. And today I am joined by my colleague.
Hi guys, welcome to our webinar this morning. My name is Kai and I'm going to be taking you through, giving you an overview of what we're going to be doing today in terms of giving you an introduction of what the Career Centre does specifically for the Executive MBA program in Dubai. We'll go into some detail about some background macro information about why it's important to consider some of this information when thinking about doing your MBA. And then we're going to go through how the Career Centre specifically works with you guys once you're on the program. And then we also have some case studies of students that have been through the program and how we work with them and what the end result was. Following all this stuff, it'll be great to kind of field some questions from you. You know, we're live, so if you have questions, it'd be great for you to use the chat function to kind of voice them, or have some in the back of your mind as well that you can raise and put your hand up at the end of the session. Yasmin, is there anything else you wanted to talk about before?
Yeah, that's it. Fantastic. So we'll just have some questions at the end. So I'll be back for that. Without further ado, I'll hand over to you now.
Okay, cool. So again, welcome guys to the session. You know, for those of you that don't know me, you know, just give a quick background about myself. And the reason why I'm talking to you today is because I head up the Career Centre for the Dubai campus. And so if you do join the program, we'll be working together a lot. So just a quick background about myself. I did my degree in neuroscience. This took me down a path of interest into, you know, human psychology, human performance, which took me into human performance coaching. I started my career in executive search. This was in London and New York. And what this experience gave me was a real insight into how executive careers pan out, how companies look at recruiting, the various challenges and hurdles that executives have to go through to reach the pinnacles within their career. And by pinnacles, we mean C-level within corporate or strong industry reputation in other fields. And I joined the school something like 7 years ago. And in the last 2 years is when I joined the LBS campus, specializing in as an executive coach for the students in Dubai. So since joining the Dubai campus, we've been revamping how we work with companies in the region and what we call the EMBA talent development curriculum, and how we take you on a journey to give you this baseline level of executive career skills that will help you navigate all the various challenges that you might face in your career. What's exciting about the EMBA Dubai program and executive programs in general is that you can implement some of the stuff that we talk about almost immediately. So the benefit to you is that whilst you're in work and doing the program, you can see some real-time feedback on some of the ideas, concepts, information, and apply it almost instantly to your career. You don't have to wait to graduate for these things to come into fruition. So before we go into stuff, what I would like to do is give you a quick overview about why it's important to think about careers. So most of you in the room thinking about doing an MBA, ultimately that's going to be a career decision. And we would categorize you into three main categories. People that are thinking about accelerating within your industry or within your organization, people that are looking to career pivot or transition, and then people that are looking at potentially setting up their own firm or pursuing some sort of entrepreneurial activity. Some of you in the room might also be thinking about all three of these options or more than one option, and that's fine as well. You know, you don't, the idea behind how we work with the Executive MBA class is giving them macro information and giving them access to the information they need to help them do some of their career paths, as well as tailored one-to-one content as well. So everyone on the Dubai program gets time with one-to-one coaching to help tailor some of the concepts we go through to their individual needs. But before we do that, I think it'd be interesting to hear from you guys about the types of career information that you've had so far. So when most people think about career coaching, first of all, a lot of people haven't had it. And second of all, people's experience of it might have been from when they were at school or conversations with their family about what they should do when they grow up. And you know, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and that's the reason why we have this function, and that's why we put a lot of resources behind it. You know, the age-old adage of doing what you love is great in principle and great in intent, but when it comes to application to executive careers, when you're thinking about your salary, your roles, your future, we need to have a much more sophisticated approach. And then there's a concept called ikigai. It's not mine, it's an ancient Japanese concept. And what I like about this is that, you know, what you're good at, what you love to do, what the world needs, and what you can get paid to do might be 4 different things. And so you need to start thinking about, from a career strategy perspective, is that how do you start getting to the center of these circles and into your flow? So these are like old ancient concepts, but what we try to do in the Career Center is layer on current labor market intelligence or the latest concepts or innovations within the space to help you come with a balanced view about how you're going to strategically manage your career. So if we look back in history, I think, you know, your grandparents' generation, there was a time when people could start at the bottom of an organization and work their way up. There's loads of books out there about people that, as baggage handlers in airports, became CEO within their lifetime. And each subsequent generation of people ended up changing job multiple times. And we're now at a point where the youngest demographic of students in the talent marketplace are almost changing jobs every 3 months because they're doing internships and projects rather than full-time employment. And the reason why I'm talking about this stuff is that the world is definitely changing. There are new career realities at the moment that you need to understand before you can navigate them. So, and many of you in the room would have benefited from some of these things. And we need to understand how these things are playing in effect so that you can benefit further, accelerate further, also to utilize the opportunity that's out there, but also to be aware of some of the risks associated with careers. Many of you will be considering whether to do an MBA now during potential recession times and all this kind of thing. And so it's important for you to understand some of the macro layers involved in making career decisions. And a quick summary is here on this slide. You know, the impacts of globalization. There are new career realities. The concept of staying with a single employer is no longer the norm. And when you think about moving and changing, the idea about dynamic careers, the idea of deciding when to change, what information to crystallize into your profile, and how to benefit from the opportunities that's out there. Some of you working for family businesses and for less corporate careers, this is also just as important. You know, your reputation, your access to opportunity, you know, your trajectory is also dictated by new forces. And equally, as we might be seeing at the moment in some areas, is, you know, with all this opportunity, there becomes employment insecurity. So maybe a generation before, the number of talent development schemes that we would see by companies was very prevalent. And we're seeing companies invest less and less in training and in development of their own staff, which then puts the pressure on the individual to start taking ownership of their own development, their own career trajectory, and their own, acceleration. So the idea of waiting for a company to do this for us is not wise in this day and age and the way the world's going. So, you know, as an ex-headhunter, when we looked at the talent marketplace, we would broadly put the talent in the marketplace along these 3 main categories: the talented many, the skilled few, and the expert one. And the reason why I talk about this stuff is because up until now, your career decisions have been made on previous information. You might have been part of the talented many. The people that we're looking for the executive MBA program, and what we try to help them hone in on whilst they're on the program, is taking them from the talented many to being part of the skilled few and the expert ones. This is not a conversation about generalist versus specialist. It's not about making people cut off their options. It's about how do you start to be recognized as an expert in your field? How do you start being recognized as having a commodity of skill, knowledge, network, ideas, attitude, brand, that starts to differentiate you from people in the market. And that's wholly what we're trying to get people on this trajectory, despite of their end objectives. So even if you're looking at accelerating, transitioning, or setting up your own industry or your own company, you know, we're trying to get you and your individual profiles to separate you from the herd, so to speak. And when we assess candidates, you know, you're being assessed on your track record, your current performance, and your future potential. And this is how other organizations and other companies and other people are going to assess you. So a big part of our talent development curriculum at LBS is taking a look at how do you articulate all the things that you did in your track record, so the things you've done before you, how you take on new things at the moment so that your current performance is at its peak, how you crystallize that experience into your profile, and then how do you set up the conversations with your network, with employers, with your peer group, to show what your potential is. Most of us aren't so good at articulating these things. And so a big part of our career center approach is to help, how do we help you articulate and develop all these things? And then once you have these things set, how do you realize this potential by connecting you to the market, connecting you with the latest labor market information, and teaching you the skills that you require to help you build your own network and your own proprietary connections and experience. So when we look at successful people, you know, when we look at people that are like are really called influencers within their space, and I know the word influencer has been tarnished by the likes of Instagram and TikTok, and I don't think we are trying to make the future Instagram influencers in the world. But you know, to take that with a pinch of salt, you know, there's various components that make up someone that has influence, and this is a combination of your story, you know, the things that you're putting out there, the connections that you have, and your profile. And these are some of the lines and the pillars in which we kind of take candidates through to make sure that they're investing in each of these components, so that when they come out of the program, they are in a stronger place of influence within their industry. And our motives for doing that is that if we can create successful students, they become successful alumni, and successful alumni take the LBS brand with them and help propagate and increase the value of the LBS qualification and brand internationally. So how do we do this? So you know, the main components of working with EMBA students is we have group workshops, and we have something like 20, 25 plus topics. And normally what we do at the beginning of the program is do a career needs analysis of the class to make sure that whilst you are learning collectively, you're learning the things that will help you the most as a collective. And then I'll talk about one-to-one coaching in a second. But in these workshops, what we do is we bring together the latest macro information in each of these spaces. We bring in information from faculty, information from company conversations, information from headhunters, and we bring them all together to give you the latest update in, you know, what is the latest idea about branding? What's the latest idea about salary negotiation? And then ideally, we also bring through case studies of examples of previous EMBAs and how you can learn from previous people's mistakes and fold them into your individual industries. So these workshops are really great. You know, they were normally slotted in with each module, so you get one workshop per module. We design it in a certain order so that you can feel like you're growing through the baseline steps. You know, I would argue that first comes personal competence before social competence. So personal competence is getting your baseline skills intact, from telling your story to getting your professional brand right. And then social competence comes from how do you network, how do you build your online presence, you know, how do you perform an interview. And so this is the structure that we kind of think about. And the workshops are designed to be, you can do them independently, so you can do them as one-offs within the module, or you can treat them as a series, which will connect the dots in what we believe to be take you on a journey, so that from start to finish, you will be have a new set of skills that you can apply to the marketplace. We then follow from the one-to-one coaching. You know, we then follow into from the workshops. We then go into one-to-one coaching, and so this is the concept of taking this macro information, this group information, and then applying it to you as an individual. I'm surprised actually how many people haven't had coaching sessions before. And I think if we were in a live session, I would normally ask people to get a poll of who had coaching or who people get their advice from. And one-to-one coaching, the analogy I would use is even professional sports stars, even Muhammad Ali had a coach. And as talented as they are, the objective of the coach isn't to do the job for them, but there is some wisdom that from the sidelines, what they can see, how they can extract the best out of that person, and how they can keep them on a path to fit with their goals. And so it's very interesting that we see, elite sports and having how coaching is the norm, but actually in corporate life, that's, it's actually reserved for very senior people. So normally C-level board people, management people all have coaches. But the mid-tier people take a while before realizing that's a really important part of their journey. So we are here to help on a one-to-one level with our students. So we do the workshops and then we do one-to-one coaching with our students. This has been heavily utilized now during the COVID lockdown. And it's one of those things that we can do remotely and we can do in person. And it's a way of someone keeping you, someone to check in with. And someone that can help you, on your journey. We have a coaching pool of sector experts, and we have a coaching pool of generalist coaches. So our sector experts, we have the school hires people who are full-time at the school, who are normally people from industry. So people that have worked in private equity, in investment management, investment banking, consulting, healthcare. Normally every sector of business you can think of, we have someone that works in our what we call our employee engagement team. And so these people are sector experts within that space. And then we have generalist coaches. And these generalist coaches will help you figure out some of the questions that you need to answer before you get this specialist information. I was a sector specialist, but I am a general coach for the Executive MBA program. So the relationship that I have with the students is almost like a GP. Like if I take an analogy for the UK health system, I'm a generalist practitioner with the EMBA cohort. So I would normally meet with all of you, go through your career goals. We go through a process of reality checking what those goals are. We go through a process of looking what the options are after reality checking some of those goals, and then come up with a way forward, which is a plan in which you need to act on. From this plan, we will then feed into setting up conversations with individual sector experts to help feed that market information that you need to help make some career decisions. So hopefully this gives you an understanding of how these things start to piece together. I'm now going to move on to, how do we give access to opportunities within the region? So the first thing that we do is that we create a talent directory. And this is the purpose of this talent directory is to get an executive profile on every individual student on the program. And it's not a CV and it's not a cover letter, it's more of a bio of what your trajectory is, what you've done before, alluding to that concept of track record, current performance, future potential. This is a summary statement of each candidate. And what this does is enables people within streams, within locations from the London to Dubai campus, people that might be doing the same program as you, but a couple of months later, enables you to hyper connect to each other, to figure out what the expertise is in the room, how you can build your network within the class. But then also, we also share this with alumni and we share this with companies in the region. So what this means is we can hyper connect the network of people, and it allows people to connect to people with specific networking goals in mind. So when you're looking for specific expertise, specific geographical knowledge, or specific understanding of certain things, this is designed to help do this. So we do this, we've been doing this for the last year and a half. So we have something like 5 classes in the current directory, and we're working on the current class now. And so each year, this bank of people and profiles just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you were to join the program, this is something that we would do. We would get you to think about your bio, think about getting how do you condense all your achievements into something that can be working for you, whilst you're on the program. We then use this also to do something called the Middle East Talent Networking Evening. So the Middle East Talent Networking Evening is different to other events. So most people, when they go to university, they think of campus recruitment. And Campus recruitment, if we go back to the idea of the talented many, skilled few and expert ones, campus recruitment is normally reserved for the talented many. So you see this at undergraduate universities where you get lots of companies coming on campus to recruit for their graduate trainee programs. And even London Business School, we have a lot of these companies coming on campus to recruit for these types of programs. For the executive MBA though, we need to think of this in a different way, mainly because you are executive track candidates, and therefore, you know, these talent development programs where some of you might be suitable, for a lot of you, it's actually about looking at connecting to the lateral recruitment teams with the heads of recruitment, with different touch points within the organization for the right level of opportunity. So I organize this event every year, and what we do is we get companies, we invite specifically the heads of recruitment or executive search from each of these companies, and we make sure that we capture detailed information about what lateral opportunities they are looking for. So for example, with McKinsey is a really good case study in this example, because McKinsey has a generalist track recruitment, which most of you might know about, and that's suitable for full-time MBAs. But through our relationship with McKinsey, and we've got a lot of partners that are ex-LBS, we understood that they have acquired a lot of boutique consultancies in Saudi, consultancies in Dubai, and they have some real interest in some of these hiring executive level candidates into their lateral program, which is where what we try to feed back to you. So we produce all these market intelligence reports specifically for the EMBA Dubai, where you can read about what company is looking at, what the company background is, what they're looking for, and so therefore it helps you set up those conversations. So when you do get a chance to meet them in person, you are applying your skill set to their needs. So this is just a quick snapshot of the last companies we had in our event last year. This year we were meant to have it in June. Obviously with the COVID restrictions, we've had to postpone this. And actually we're postponing this to a split type of format. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a digital format where we're going to get companies to do company presentations, and we're going to do that in the autumn term. And then we're going to have a part two, which is the physical networking opportunity. Hopefully, by part two, we'll be allowed to have physical networking events. But I don't want us to miss the momentum of these company conversations. So, you know, in the autumn of this year, if you guys are joining, what will happen is you'll get to experience, you know, company presentations from all these companies and others about what their background is, what they're looking for, and what they're looking to hire for. And then there's a bit of time in between those presentations of company presentations in like a digital forum before you get a chance to meet them in person and build on that momentum in their profile. But this snapshot shows we have a range of, you know, regional powerhouses as well as a lot of international firms that are recruiting in the region. And it's just a photo from last year's event. I'm going to go on to, you know, I skipped past this slide, which is the career reps. I think it's, you know, what we do, just to give you an understanding of how interactions work. So I have a direct relationship with all the students. I deliver the workshops, so I bring in guest speakers. We also have career reps within each class. So if you join the program, what would happen is one of you will be elected to become a career rep, and you'll be almost the voice of the class and have a closer relationship with me. So we can make sure that we're tailoring guest speakers, tailoring content, tailoring workshops specifically to the needs of what the class is feeling at any one time. So for example, in the current class at the moment, as we know in the Middle East, there's going through COVID accelerated catalyst of restructuring of businesses. So a lot of people in the class are having to interview for their own jobs as companies restructure. So we made sure we tailored that content to make sure we had that workshop about, you know, interview skills was brought forward. Another topic that happened recently was people were very interested in managing the online presence as we're becoming more and more digital, and even more than ever, you know, your online presence is important during these COVID lockdown situations. So we brought forward what would have been later in the year. We brought forward that topic of managing your online presence as a workshop, practical workshop now. So this is how we remain fluid during the program, and that we make sure that you are getting the information that you need at any one time. I'm going to quickly go through some case studies, and then we can move on to questions. So if you guys have questions please do write some comments in the chat box, or have some questions ready. But I'm going to quickly go through some case studies. So this is a student called Ihab. You can look him up on LinkedIn. You can connect to him. He's very open. You can ask him directly. What was fascinating about Ihab's story was, he was a general manager in a retail company in Saudi, and he felt that his career was stagnating a little bit, in the sense that he had very good buy-in from the management, but the strategy of the company, the way that they was facing commercial pressures, he did feel like his growth curve after a while was stagnating. And so we were looking at, how do we help him develop opportunities? How do we help him get his career growth that he was looking for? And when we did an audit of his profile, one of the things that was interesting was that he didn't have much of an online presence. He didn't have a network. He had a strong network within his physical network, but he wasn't getting approached for a lot of opportunities outside of his network. And so that was a data point for us, that he wasn't getting approached with the right level or type of opportunities, which was an indication for us that his personal brand needed some work. So we started with getting him to think about what type of stuff he was sharing, how he's commenting on the market. And here is a snapshot of some of the posts that he was doing, to show, because he had access to interesting information, and how he's sharing that to his network. And his network started to grow. He then set up the first Jeddah chapter for LBS in Saudi. So he became a connector. He started helping other people connect to each other, and then he helped develop this network within Saudi of students and alumni who were all existing, but maybe weren't as connected as they could have been. So he definitely took that on, and it was an interesting way of him giving before taking. But we started to see how this really started to develop recently, where we had a coaching conversation, and he had interviews with various companies, and it wasn't quite fitting. We had this wealth of experience and connections, and the conclusion we came to is that he could potentially set up his own consultancy. So we set up his own consultancy, and immediately had multiple clients waiting to hire for his services, rather than him trying to fit into the corporate idea which he thought. And this recently was really fascinating, because he was recognized for his level of understanding and insights, because he then organized a panel, and he had some real C-level staff from Shaloub, from really big organizations in the region, and we helped him set up this webinar. We helped him facilitate. We helped him reach out to the right speakers. And so I think it's a really interesting case study of someone that was on a corporate track stagnating, and his transition through the program and after the program was setting up his own consultancy, but also increasing his network to the types of people that are really moving and shaking within that space. And I think it's a really nice case study of someone that didn't think some things were possible, had to adjust to new market information, had to recalibrate some of their ideas with the help of a coach, with the help of some market information, and then coming to a point now where he is independent. He's working on things that he's an expert in, but also being recognized in his field. So that was a really interesting case study. Another case study is Anissa, I love this case study with Anissa, because I think she felt that she was working in a really good firm, but also her growth was also a little bit stagnating, and she wasn't sure about what her opportunities would be within the firm. And so we were looking at, how does she expand her network? How does she build her reputation? And she's part of a treasury group, and we encouraged her to become more active in that group. And when they caught hold of her story, they were fascinated with her potential and her trajectory. She already had the potential, she already had the knowledge, she already had the ideas, but not enough people knew about it. And what was interesting was, when people started to realize about her trajectory, they were really keen about sharing it themselves. And so she ended up being put on the front cover of the trade magazine for the treasurer, which was amazing, because it meant that her story and her profile was not only shared, in the region, but shared internationally. So these are some case studies of people that really transformed you know, their background, or applied their story and their potential, and started to get something back from making small tweaks, and achieving some of these really good milestones. I'm not saying that all of you have to be put on the front covers of your industry magazines. You know, that's not always realistic. But you know, understanding how do you really unleash your potential, and start to extract some value back from that is the idea in which what we try to do within the Career Centre. So I just had a question pop up about, you know, what's the difference between EMBA London and EMBA Dubai. You know, I work for the leadership, the programs team within the Career Centre. So my colleague Paul Drew, we're equivalents. He covers EMBA London, but we interchange all the time. So we have, in the executive MBA pool, we have EMBA London, EMBA Dubai, and EMBA Global. EMBA Global is a mix of New York students and Hong Kong students, and our partnerships with those universities. So our team covers leadership content for all of these things, and then you have a career lead for each group. So I'm the career lead for EMBA Dubai. Paul's the career lead for EMBA London. And we literally sit next to each other in the office. So all the information is like for like. The workshops are like for like, but they're just delivered by slightly different people. So that's that. Hopefully that answers that question about that. What kind of support is? Sorry.
So Kai, there is actually another really interesting question. I think we've somebody's missed some key important information that you've said, and they're questioning about career services besides talent evenings. So just to scope like the top 3 things other than the talent evenings, what would they be able to make most use of?
Yeah. So again, our career center offering is, you know, workshops, one-to-one coaching, insights. You're gonna have networking events, and then we have stuff like guest speakers where you have people coming in and they're layering that information on top. In the back end, what you don't see is that we have an employee engagement team. So this is a team of people that are, their full-time job is to go out and build relationships with companies in every sector you can think of. Some sectors from finance to technology to consulting to, you know, healthcare, automotive. We have a team of something like 45 people in London who are out doing that kind of thing. That team does international relationships with international companies and have an international scope. Because I work very closely with the Dubai team, and I also used to work for that team, I also manage the regional relationships. So these are like the Omars, the Sovereign Wealth Funds, Shaloub Group, these regional powerhouses that are specific to Dubai is something that I manage. So you have this employee engagement layer, you have labor market intelligence layer, you have access to opportunities, access to guest speakers, and then you have one-to-one coaching and group workshops to help gel that all together. You need to understand that everyone on the EMBA Dubai program is slightly different. They have individual profiles, and we relish that. So we want to help each of these individuals accelerate into their own space. And what we try to do is this generalist workshop offering, and then we tailor the kind of strategy element to these individuals. So I want you to think of it almost like a buffet. You don't have to do all of these things. You can pick and choose what's relevant to you. And then hopefully that components of this stuff where they enable you to tailor make your own career journey on the EMBA program.
Yeah, and we've got another question that's come in here. So when do you get access to the Career Centre services? Is it at the start of the academic year, or do you incoming students have access to the Career Centre earlier?
So, we have, the journey really starts once you're on the program. So, the first orientation is more about you kind of meeting your peer group, and we do a session with you guys in orientation on how, a refresh on the stuff that we're covering today, which is, what we're going to be doing looking forward. And then your first normal session starts with the Career Centre, normally in your second module, and then we start the curriculum. So before that curriculum starts, and we start doing this, we do a survey of everyone in the class to find out what their career needs are, and so that we can make sure we're tailoring that program to them. And then from that moment onwards, you're open to having one-to-one coaching and able to kind of meet us, or I might refer you to different members of the team. So it's normally the second week of your program is when we really start to work with Career Centre. You need to also imagine that you need to juggle quite a few things when you're on the program. So you've got your academic commitment, you've got coursework, you're meeting your peers, you're meeting your study groups, you're meeting your faculty and lecturers and alumni, and so we need to make sure we give you space and time to do those things. Our job is to make sure to come in early and to hold your hand, not in a patronizing way, but to be there for you to check in with you throughout the program. That's how we kind of work with you.
Thank you. And someone here is asking, how do you tackle a situation where the market opportunity is not aligned, so possibly not available with students' personal preferences or key strengths?
Yeah, so I mean, this is common. I mean, we all have ambitions and ideas, what we want to do, and then we have roadblocks that might stop us from achieving some of those things. A common question we get, for example, on the EMBA program is, I want to do consulting. Is this the right thing for me? So there has to be an element of head in the clouds, feet on the ground approach. And so you need to think about what are the roadblocks, how do you tackle those things? And is there other routes to get to the same goal? And are these the right goals that we should be pursuing? So there's multiple layers to this. I would normally start with, taking a reality check of what these goals are. Are they realistic goals? If they are realistic, or if there's some issues there, how can we navigate the challenges of roadblocks that are ahead of us? So, for example, with consulting, the generalist track it sounds appealing, but it might be a step backwards for some people. And are they prepared to do that? And if they're not prepared to do that, what other opportunities within consulting can they do? And what are their long-term goals so they can navigate these short-term obstacles? So, it is not in your control. The market is not in your control. You don't control the number of jobs that are in the space. You don't control who's hiring at any one moment in time, but you are in control of your profile, your network, your story. You're in control of the experience that you crystallize into your profile. And I think if you take that ownership, then you can help navigate some of these things. So, it's definitely, this is the type of conversation we'd have in a one-to-one session. How do you navigate those challenges?
Another interesting question would be, how many career coaches can you have? And I'll weave it in with another question of how many career coaching sessions can you get in one term? So kind of two in one.
So we have like I said, like we have, our career centers. I think our career center is probably one of the largest career centers in a university. So like I said, we have these career leads. So I'm predominantly responsible for the EMBA Dubai program. And then if I feel that in our sessions or through your request that I would refer you to another specialist or another sector expert, then we could do that. So your first port of call normally is with me as an EMBA Dubai student. An EMBA London student, your first port of call will be with my colleague Paul Drew. Obviously, it kind of works like a bank. If everyone draws on our time at the same time, then obviously that's going to be problematic. But what we try to do is make sure we have these check-in relationships with you. So what I would normally do with the students on the EMBA Dubai program, I'll have a face-to-face or online one-to-one session where we go deep dive about your background and your goals. And then what we do is a check-in session. So I let the student determine how often they want to check in, but ideally I like to do this, roughly once a month. And that way they can check in about what the situation is, whether they need to change their plan or whether they need to some adjustment or recalibration of what the plan that they're already doing. So that's the kind of relationship we have with the EMBA students. And you can reach out to and speak to students from the current program to get their feedback on how they work with us and how they like to work. So some students I'm meeting, every month, but some students have a deeper need. So for example, if a student's facing a restructuring in their office and they have to interview again and they have to, salary negotiate, then obviously resources are diverted to them. Some people will need less time between their check-ins because they're on the right trajectory and they just want, top-up coaching. Officially, I think you normally have something like, you can have like 3 or 4 a term. But we don't keep score in the Dubai team, so it's more about helping the people that they need and when they need.
So it's basically what you kind of put in is what you'll get out. And it's according to your need. Fantastic. Okay. And somebody here is asking, is there any portal where live opportunities are advertised?
Yeah, so we have a system called Career Central, and Career Central is a job board where you can where our employee engagement team manages this system. So any jobs that come through the network gets posted on there, so you can see the types of jobs that are available. We also, in Dubai, we have the Gulf Association. So we have, we have jobs coming in from the alumni network in the Gulf Association. So that's also another pool of job opportunities you kind of get. So these are more like networky based. Does anyone have any recommendations for stuff? What we try to do is capture those opportunities as well on the job board. It's not so easy with executive profiles. So as we know, you have like advertised jobs, and advertised jobs tend to be go through a lot of processes within a company before they get advertised. We all know that there are some hidden job market opportunities as well, which normally come from referrals. So we try to capture both.
Thank you. And somebody else here is asking, from your experience, how different is the one-to-one coaching for individuals who are pursuing their own business as compared to those who are involved in a corporate business?
Yeah, so I think you expect them to be quite different, but actually there's a lot of similar stuff happening there. I think, for example, professional identity, navigating conversations with investors, having someone to soundboard how they're positioning things, having someone to soundboard ideas and strategies about how they're approaching their business. We have leadership development coaches as well. And we have residents and experts in entrepreneurship. So we have an entrepreneurship section of our employee engagement team, a lady called Jane Kadir, and she organizes the Entrepreneur's Journey series. So we bring in VCs, we bring in previous entrepreneurs, we bring in incubators to help make sure that you have that exposure as well. The one-to-one coaching, like I said, is more like a check-in relationship. So you might be you might be keeping me in the loop of your journey, and then we will refer you to individuals to fold in those expertise. So the one-to-one coaching is having someone that understands your story and understands your objectives and helps you kind of figure out what those next steps look like. And then you layer on top of this one-to-one coaching with expertise from different domain experts. So that's how it kind of differs. There are some very common learnings, like your how do you accelerate within your field? How do you manage your online presence? How do you go about interview skills? So as an interviewer, you might be interviewing other people, and therefore understanding the best ways of interviewing people can also be benefited from that same workshop. So you'll be surprised how similar some of the stuff is. The one-to-one coaching is designed to be tailored to you. So your individual situation. How do you apply this information to your individual situation?
Yeah. And another interesting question here was, what role does the career coach play in helping me with my entrepreneurial startup? So I know that you just said you touched upon briefly about that, but specifically with startups, what role would you guys be able to play?
Yeah, so I think we work with quite a few startups in the region. I'm centering this conversation around Dubai. If there's more information, if you want more information about London, I can talk about this stuff. So we have there's the FinTech Hive, Startup Bootcamp. We have Seed Camp. All these kind of relationships, Techstars, relationships with organizations that are helping that community of entrepreneurships. This also works with people that are not working in entrepreneurship, because we try and get EMBAs working in corporate to help mentor these companies as well. But in terms of helping you start up, I mean, it's not the same as an incubator. We have the Entrepreneurship Summer School, where people can help launch their business from scratch with the school's infrastructure and support. The one-to-one coach isn't necessarily to help you launch that business from scratch. It's more for you to help facilitate you to do that. So facilitate you by either connecting you to resources, people, alumni, connections, to help you facilitate that. The relationship, the psychological relationship or contract we have between EMBAs on the program and the Career Center is one of like ownership. So, facilitated ownership. So you need to take ownership of your journey, and we will help connect you to the resources or perspectives or information you need to help you realize what you need to do.
Brilliant. And just the last question now. So how does the process of accessing support from the Career Center work? So once I've graduated?
Yeah, so I mean, in Dubai, we're trying to build a community. We've been in the region for 10 years. since I've joined the program, it's the last couple of years, and we're trying to hyper connect the alumni with students. You know, I'm still, we have alumni coaches, but a lot of the students that were former students, I still coach as alumni. So, you know, there's lots of case studies of this kind of stuff. But we do also have a pool of alumni coaches as well. So just to make sure that we have a large community of students in the Middle East, in the Gulf Association, and we have something like 4 or 5 coaches on standby to take, you know, to be able to do one-to-one coaching. As an alum, I think you're officially allowed something like 2 coaching sessions a year for free. And then I think there's a charge if you ever have more than that. But, you know, that's the official numbers in terms of executive coaching once you're an alum. I think that my advice, though, to motivate people is, you know, a lot of people might think, I'll do the program, get the academics out of the way, and then think about career once I'm a graduate. You know, I personally made that mistake when I was an undergraduate. You know, get the degree done and then think about things. You know, as well as juggling your program, as well as juggling your academics, we're advising you to take ownership of the career-related stuff during the program. So you can build networks whilst you're on the program. You can build peer networks. You can work on your brand. You can work on your profile. You can work on your strategy during the program, so that when you land as an alum, the runway's built. You know, the runway's built, and that's the mentality we try to encourage.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's all of our questions for today. Thank you again, Kai, for joining us from the Career Centre and giving us all these juicy insights. Hope everybody has benefited from it. So that will be it for us today. Thank you again for joining us.
Sure. Feel free to reach out to both of us. You know, Yasmin, if you have admissions questions, or Amber, if you have admissions questions, or myself, if you have any further questions. Hope you guys have a great start to the week, and we'll speak soon.